This is Unit 5, Lesson 10, Estimating Percents. Some of you are going to like this lesson because a lot of the work that we're doing for this lesson is actually in our head instead of on paper. Here's example 1. What's 10% of 84? We could do this in one of the two ways that we know. First, by setting up a percent proportion, cross-multiplying, finding the answer, finding out 10% of 84 is 8.4. The other method we've used is multiplying 84 times 0.10, the decimal form, and in the same way we get 8.4. But one thing that you might notice about finding 10% of something is that the answer, if we take a look at where the decimal is, if we look at moving that one space over, in fact we get our answer. Multiplying anything by 10% is going to result from simply moving the decimal space one point over, because that's how our number system works, because it's based on a base of 10. So we're going to use that method to quickly find 10% of any number. Let's take a look at example 2. What's 10% of 620? We're going to move that decimal spot one place over, and the answer is 62, and it's as easy as that. You can do that right in your head. What's 10% of 27? We're going to move that decimal spot one spot over to the left. Our answer is 2.7. Now, if we're finding 10% of money, in this case we're going to move the decimal spot 1 point over. We'll get 4.553. Now it's important to round that because we're dealing with money, so to round that to the nearest hundredth. So our answer is $4.55. The same if we're taking 10% of 129.99. Move that decimal spot one place to the left, we get 12.999, and that rounds up to $13. So if you wanted to leave a 10% tip, which is not fabulous, but if you wanted to leave a 10% tip, it's easy to do that computation in your head without the need for a calculator, simply by moving that decimal. All right, what if we wanted to take 20% of something? Well, that's almost as easy. First, we're going to take 10% and get 8.4. But we know that 20% of something is double 10%. So if we take 10% and get 8.4, then we're going to simply double that and get 16.8. So that's an easy way of doing 20% in your head. Take 10% and then double it. So now we're going to apply that same process to finding 20% of these numbers. 20% of 620. The first thing we do is take 10%, get 62, then we're going to double that. And that you might be able to do easily in your head, or you might just want to write it down on paper and pencil. 62 doubled is 124. All right, let's find 20% of 27. First 10% is 2.7. Double that is 5.4. 20% of 4553. First we get to that 10% of 455, doubling that. This one might be a little harder to do in your head. You could use a calculator. You could write it down. Doubling that gives us $9.10. 10%, 129.99 is 13. Doubling that is a little bit easier in your head, $26. All right, we're going to do one more estimate. 10%, 20%, and 15% are pretty straightforward to do. And those are often tipping amounts, 20% and 15%. So that's one reason why it's handy to be able to do these in your head. So 15%, we're first going to do 10%, get our 8.4, and that we know 15% is 10 and half of 10, which is 5. So 10 and 5 makes 15. So I'm going to take 10%, 8.4, and then I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take half of it, 4.2. Then I'm going to add those two numbers together. So 10% and 5% added together makes 15%. So we get 12.6 is 15% of 8.4. So we took 10%, we cut that in half, we added those two values together. All right, now we're going to try that process with example 6. What's 15% of 620? So first we find 10% is 62. And we're going to cut that in half. Half of 62 is 31, so we're going to add 31 to it, and we get 93. All right, 15% of 27. First take 10%, 2.7. We're going to take half of 2.7. Half of 2.7 is 1.35. Add those together, 4.05. That's 15%. 15% of 4553. First we take 10%, 455. Cut that in half and round so that it's money. It's 228. Add those together, we get 683. Again, some of this you might be able to do in your head, and some of it you might need to write down on paper or do in the calculator for the final adding together. 129.99, we get $13. 13 cut in half is 650. Add those together, 1950. So really, most of these we're trying to get to the point where we can do them and get pretty close of an answer just in our head. That's it. I will see you tomorrow.